Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions, no.
That's a good one, Catherine. Really it is. And that was, of course, the president and CEO of NPR, or National Public Radio, speaking before Congress last month, claiming very boldly there that the network doesn't let its blatantly leftist political bias seep into its editorial decisions. But then again, who was she really fooling with a response like that? Anybody? Anybody? I don't think so. One doesn't have to be an expert in media literacy to see the bias in their headlines day after day. In fact, let's take a look at some recent examples of headlines taken straight from their politics section on their website, which really prove that what she just said right there is a bald-faced lie. Scientists worry about free speech rights under the Trump administration. Or how Doge may have improperly used Social Security data to push voter fraud narratives. Or this one. In a world that craves stability, Trump brings the chaos. Okay, so fair, right? So neutral in that reporting, and so objective. That's real journalism right there. Not, of course, but just to drive the point home about how absolutely absurd Catherine Maher's claims really are. Here's what she had to say when she was confronted with her own past posts on social media.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall.
Yikes. You really just can't make this stuff up. It's almost like we're living in the Twilight Zone. But alas, this is reality, and that's her official position. But again, here's one article NPR just published which actually isn't total and utter nonsense. Trump plans order to cut funding for NPR and PBS. According to NPR, citing a White House official who supposedly spoke to them on the condition of anonymity, the Trump administration has drafted a brand new memo to Congress outlining its intent to end nearly all federal funding for public media, which of course includes NPR and PBS. Of course, why any news outlets here in the U.S. receive any taxpayer funding at all is pretty absurd and questionable, to say the least, since news media is supposed to be independent, objective, and impartial. But alas, American taxpayers have been subsidizing these organizations for years. And while both outlets once had their heyday for conducting real journalism many, many, many years ago, those days are clearly over. Now it's just propaganda, disguised as news more often than not. And clearly, President Trump sees that trend too.
Would you be interested in defunding and taking away taxpayer dollars to NPR and PBS?
Well, I would love to do that. I think it's very unfair. It's been very biased with the whole group. I mean, a whole group of them. And frankly, there's plenty of, look at all the media you have right now. There's plenty of coverage. I was from a different age, and they spend more money than any other network of its type ever conceived. So the kind of money that's being wasted, and it's a very biased view, you know that better than anybody. And I'd be honored to see it end.
And we, Mr. President, would be honored and delighted to see you end it too. Because as the White House puts it, the NPR PBS grift has ripped us off for too long.